Before we get into a full discussion on the League Awards, I just want to extend a thank you to everybody that voted to nominate myself and the LCS watch parties here in New York City for a League Award. It is an honor that so many people not only support my content here, the watch parties that we have in New York City, the general raising of awareness. There's a lot of people that will retweet the stuff on Twitter, share it on TikTok, even though they're not from New York, just to try and get the word out. I am grateful and appreciative to every single one of you. Thank you for helping make what is a dream of mine starting to become a reality, where eventually we fill up Madison Square Garden with just nothing but LCS fans, and not just like 2016 and repeating the past. No, I want to fill that stadium up with diehard passionate fans of one team, similar to another team that is nominated in the same category, but we'll get to that. I just wanted to say before we officially begin this video, thank you to everybody for nominating us for a League Award in its first year. That's amazing. Thank you so much. And I will be trying to go for that Creator of the Year award at some point in time. But for now, we stick to the small things. Official nominations are out for the League Awards hosted by Kadrill and Shox, and there's one caveat that they noted on Twitter, which I think was really important, and it actually factored into how I was personally voting going into all this. I thought Kadrill and Shox should win some awards, given that Kadrill does kind of dominate the content space, but they took themselves out of any potential nominations, and honestly, I love that. The selflessness and like just doing the right thing in that situation by not allowing yourself to win those awards, fantastic. And it's led to some amazing categories. We're going to go over all of them, and I'm going to give you my votes for who I think should win the League Awards. You'll have a screenshot up for each and every award that we're talking about. The first one being Player of the Year. I know a lot of people are probably going to vote Faker. I'm curious again to see the difference between like the popular vote and the panel vote. Popular vote, Faker will always win this. But personally, I think if you're looking at the entire year, you do have to look at either Bin or Knight. I don't watch enough LPL to know how either of them did domestically, so I can only base my vote based on what I saw from international play. And I think Bin is still one of, if not the best top laner in the world. Despite their loss to T1 in the finals, I think Bin still had an incredibly respectable series. So for that reason alone, yeah, I'm going Bin, Player of the Year. LCS Player of the Year is an interesting one because I think like had Worlds not happened, everybody probably would have went for Impact. MVP had a great playoff performance up until finals, had a great regular season performance, obviously crushed Spring, did decently well internationally, but Worlds left a really big stain on Impact, which I do think takes him out. I do think it has to be somebody from FlyQuest, and it's either got to be Inspired or Masu. And given that I think we'll talk about Masu in a minute here, but I think Inspired kind of went as like the unsung hero and did everything that he needed to do for his team and was highly adaptive throughout the entire year, but never quite got, I mean, he did get the recognition that he deserved. Like everybody agrees he's the best jungler, but like I think it deserves an award to say that yes, Inspired is the best jungler and is the best LCS player in the league right now, without question. LEC player, I mean, it's either going to be Caps or BB, right? You could argue Caps had a down year, but is a down year for Caps enough to offset what was a good year for BB, but the ceiling's not as high? I think I'd still probably go, no, you know what? No, I'm going to go BB. I don't have a horse in this race. Doesn't really matter. We're going Broken Blade. I'll skim through these real quick because I didn't watch LPL or LCK. I'm still going to go with Bin for Player of the Year. I think it just makes sense given what I'm voting for, like the whole leagues, but for LPL. For LCK, it is definitely not Faker. The fact that Faker even got nominated in this, I mean, I get it from a popularity standpoint, but it's not like he was playing well in the regular season, folks. I mean, he toned it up come Worlds, but like, come on. There's not a single player from T1 that should be getting this LCK Player of the Year award. It has to go to either Gen G or Hanwha Life, of which I would personally say, Chovy kind of choked it at the end, so I'm going to go with Keen. I think Keen is probably the most deserving of this, and he was one of like the crucial points of the offseason as well for a very good reason. It's him and Zeus that are topping this league right now. And there's a reason why Chovy wanted him to stay on Gen G, otherwise he's going elsewhere. Yeah, I'm going Keen. Minor region star, gotta be Maple. It's gotta be my boy previously from TSM. He never really was a threat to us domestically there, but at least internationally, you know, I gotta pick somebody from PSG, right? Because then that makes the whole 100 Thieves thing bearable that we lost in the play-in stage. Fun. Oh, Team of the Year is going to cause a lot of controversy because the question becomes, how much do you weight Worlds? Do you weight Worlds so much higher than everything else to the point where it offsets what would be a great year otherwise? You do have Gen G, who was able to win MSI, win Spring, but did have a fall off come end of summer, which in my opinion takes Gen G out of it. I don't think they can be it. I think you have to make sure that you're holding your own through the end. And the fact that they didn't win the LCK Summer, they didn't win Worlds whenever they were heavily favored to do so, that to me is a big letdown. I don't think you can be team of the year because that entire year has to play a part in it. For that reason, I think I am going to go BLG, who still made it to finals, did lose to Gen G, won both splits of the LPL, and was just a single game away from winning Worlds and would have cemented what was a great year for the LPL through them specifically. Like, they hard carried every bit of the LPL this year. So I am going to go with BLG just because it feels right. Even though it sucks because like they don't have any international accolades to be able to like verify that and like compel it into the spotlight, but just I can't pick Gen G, can't do T1, you can't just win Worlds, like no. And for Hanwha Life, I can't give Summer like that much weight whenever you didn't even win Worlds and you lost in the quarterfinals. So no, absolutely not. Rookie of the Year, I don't even care if I'm biased on this. I gotta go Masu. Like Milky Way obviously played well and got a lot of hype through I Will Dominate's co-streams and like coverage of the LPL. Jackie's had a phenomenal year as well, but like there's nobody on this list that was standing up to the likes of international competition the way that Masu was. He was playing against Paze, who, you know, not on Gen G now, but who was one of the more respected ADCs across the world, was MSI champion. And the fact that he's going toe-to-toe with him was phenomenal. I'm genuinely curious to see the growth of Masu year over year, because it feels like there are these times where we do have domestic players in North America that come out and shine, but then unfortunately just never like live up to that expectation that we set for them. So I think Masu winning this award, I think is going to happen. I think he's the odds-on favorite to win it. And it sets the standard for, okay, what is his sophomore year going to be like? Can he avoid the slump that so many other players tend to fall into? Broadcast Talent of the Year, I'm actually going to drop to just the final four because I think like this is like an important one for them. It's going to be Lore, Atlas, Medic, and Emily. I think those are like the four that I feel confident saying that like they had a year that felt like it was above and beyond. All the talent on this list obviously does incredible year in, year out. I don't want to take anything away from them, but it's just like there are some years where, you know, people stand out a little bit more than most. For example, Captain Flowers, 2022, I think was like one of his standout years outside of like Kadril himself. Worlds being in North America definitely helped prove that point. For Lore, I think comedy on broadcast is something that is missing a little bit, or it's like very hit or miss for me, but her comedy moments this year felt like they hit a lot harder than years past, and it brought a little bit of levity to the broadcast, which I think has been missing for a bit, especially as Europe has been kind of struggling to get their foothold past like the Froskurin, Dracos, like that era of like LEC is kind of like come and gone, and there's a bunch of new talent coming in. I've loved what Lore's brought to the broadcast, especially this year. Atlas is just like a star-studded caster. Like I think like even though there's not like a moment in my mind that stands out as like peak above and beyond, like I still think he's like solidly top four, but he doesn't get the win for me. Medic getting to cast his first Worlds Finals, absolutely crushed it with some of the calls. Just a phenomenal year of casting for him as a whole. It felt like every time I tuned in and listened to him, it was just peak every time. Emily Rand, it's Emily Rand. She's the jack of all trades. It feels like it. I hate to say it. I hate to like kind of not put down our league, but it does feel like she's handicapped a little bit by being in North America. Like she could honestly be the star of pretty much everything at this point. And I mean, I'm glad she's not ascending that fast in the way that like Kadril did, because that can be overwhelming at points. But I think Emily Rand does get the nod for Broadcast Talent of the Year. Her growth, her continued education of not only like North American fans of other regions is just unparalleled. For her to be a NA representative but know what she knows about every other region and be able to communicate it so eloquently, yeah, she wins it easy. Esports Creator of the Year. Oh boy. So if you don't know what Last Free Nation is, Last Free Nation is basically the culmination of like Monte Cristo, Dom, Thorin, Degon's involved in it for Power Spike. LS was involved at one point. I don't think he is now. But it feels like that's a collective group of creators that just pump out an insane amount of content and podcasts, including the Sack Down with Yamato and Dom now. In terms of just sheer volume, it's hard to compete against what Last Free Nation has put out as a collective. But I think G-Bay's like individual products, like if we're talking about like pieces that stand alone, G-Bays are definitely higher than Last Free Nations in terms of quality. He obviously puts a lot of time, writing, and research into them. But Bayano also as well, like hard carries CB Low. Like he's like the guy, when you think of CB Lowell as a North American fan, you think of him. Like, he's the guy that is carrying everything. Rudy, man. Rudy, I love you, brother. Love all your stuff. For me personally, I think I got to give it the Last Free Nation. Personally, I like the Four Horsemen. Like, I'm a big fan of business podcasts and business content. I would like to see Last Free Nation win it. They're within like my top 4 like channels that I watch on YouTube. I know they can be a bit negative at times and have some pretty heavy anti-Riot and anti-North America slander, but I like people that give me the opposing opinion because I'll sit here and give you the LCS positivity all the time. So I need somebody to balance me out, and I feel like that's what Last Free Nation does for me, in addition to the obvious collective of creators that they have. Community Creator of the Year. I'm just gonna like straight up give this to Necrit, like especially with the year of Arcane and everything else going on, like the amount of work that he has put in to his content this year and the output that he's given us as everything has kind of like evolved as Arcane became canon and so much more. Like, it's Necrit. I just love Necrit. Sorry. What am I saying sorry for? I'm not going to apologize for that. Content piece of the year. Look, I'm biased. I said this during my nominations. This esport should be dead wins this one for me. G-Bay, honorable shout out for The Last Dance, The Depth versus Faker. Esports Garage getting a nod is really cool to see. I'm glad, like, within their first few times of creating videos, or like they're less than a year old. That's great. TL getting on there is awesome. T1 Rose Together is nice. 2 T1 videos, really. Nah, this esport should be dead wins it. Like, one of the most emotional pieces that I've watched in a long time. Best Riot release of the year is really interesting because you got a very heavy mix here of like the LEC content, which I don't think unfortunately stands to the test of the others. You got 2 of the World's teasers, which were phenomenal writing, but still here, Heavy is the Crown and the World's opening ceremony being here are just, oh, they're just powerhouses that changed this entire thing. Personally, I probably would have said still here had the live performance of it not have been so freaking good, and the opening ceremony having like a combination of all of these. Like, if you think about it, the World's opening ceremony is the combination of both the teasers, Still Here, and Heavy as the Crown. It's almost unfair. Like, had they not pulled it off well, then sure, maybe it doesn't get the vote, but like, it has to be the World's opening ceremony. That is going to go down, and now that more time has passed, I can talk about this. It's my favorite World's opening ceremony ever. It beats out 2019 for me, and I just is what it is. I know there are going to be a lot of people that are like, but True Damage and the performance of Phoenix was a lot better than the performance of Heavy as the Crown. Yeah, but the walkout of Heavy as the Crown beats out Phoenix by a mile. So yes, World's opening ceremony gets it for me. Play of the year. Ooh, I need to watch these. Okay, as much as I want to pick Elks 1v3, having just watched it, I gotta go with Faker Sylas play. Like, it is just one of those that I think we're gonna remember in World's history forever, and it was so monumental in turning the tides of that series, given that T1 was down and had to win that game 4, and Faker felt like he was like it. There were moments where I felt like, okay, well, how are they gonna find an angle? Faker's like, I'm gonna find you a goddamn angle. That's how. And that's what that moment was. And it obviously he performs well in game 5. It's got to be that. Even though the Faker Galio thing is also pretty cool, it's got to be the Faker Sylas engage. Creator Event of the Year, while I'm happy to be nominated and it's much appreciated, it's K-Corp-X. It's not even close. Like, they're hosting 20,000 seat events for just their organization. It's something that I strive to eventually have here in New York City. I want to build that here domestically. New York can do what the French have done without question, and we can do it better than K-Corp can do. But I massively respect everything that K-Corp has built. K-Corp-X is just an event of its own. Escape of the Year, personally, I'm actually a big fan of the Zeus one. Viper being a very close second, but the Zeus one is pretty cut and dry. Steal of the Year, did you think I was going to pick anything other than FlyQuest and Inspired? Come on now. I will let my bias go through in certain periods of time, even if that might not have been like the best deal. Yeah, it's going to be that. And Moment of the Year. Honestly, like, the Gumayusi Croissant one was pretty cool. Ben throwing his jacket was nice. Chovy winning is Chovy winning. That's awesome. But, like, the double Galio ult was... like, you remember where you were when that happened. You remember the graphic on screen when that exact play happened, whenever they, like, showed, like, the both of them up in the air. I don't know if I'll ever forget that moment, because it was just like pure shock and awe and pandemonium. And it's just a reminder that this esport and this game is so freaking cool, man. And there's nothing that comes close to it at all. So with that, that is all of my votes for the League Awards in 2024. I'm so happy that this award show again is a thing. I will do probably a live stream reacting to the League Awards. We'll all watch it together. Given that we have a nomination, I feel an obligation that I have to watch and have to see what happens, even if we're not going to win at all. Might invite some friends and family over to watch it if we can. Actually, when does this take place? It takes place on December 5th, which is a Thursday at 2. Oh God, I'm working. Never mind. It's 1 p.m. on a Thursday. Sorry, never mind. Cannot stream it, cannot do anything other than I'll make a video talking about it later if it's relevant. But otherwise, thank you all for tuning in. Thank you again for the nominations. I will catch you on the next video next week. Have a happy Thanksgiving to those of you in America that are celebrating and are with family, and to those that aren't, see you next week for a new video. Adios.